Hello, and welcome back to the Career Cravings podcast. I am so excited about today's episode. I have brought on a very special guest, my client, Shrey, who has had incredible success turning his life completely around. And today he is going to break down all of the steps he took to land his dream HR director role in under 60 days. And I don't want to spoil the episode, but he went from just a week before that to working a manual labor job for minimum wage and searching for 1 year straight without success. So he went from that to landing his dream role that was way more senior than he ever expected. And he's going to be breaking down all of the shifts that brought him to this very exciting place. So I cannot wait for us to dive in and for you to hear this episode. Now, the very first step that you're going to hear him talk about that he took is attending my free training. And the really great and exciting news is that I am hosting another free training on September 11th, which is literally next week. And I need you to attend because this is exactly what changes your job search because of the strategy that I share inside of that free training. So this exact free training is also the reason that has helped over 500 HR professionals now. I think it's like actually over 650 by this point, land their dream roles. And Shrey is just one very exciting example of that. All to say, in the show notes, I dropped the link to my free training. It is for HR professionals that are looking to land their next roles in 90 days or less. This one, I've only held one other session all of this year. I don't do this often. And I thought I would bring it back just in time for the biggest hiring season of the year, which is, of course, September. So if you're someone who's like looking for their next HR role and you have a goal to land that role by the end of the year, you're going to need to listen to this whole episode. But also before we even dive in, swipe up, save your seat. I want to see you there. I'm also going to host a Q&A session answering all questions at the very end. And I'm going to be breaking down the strategy that Shrey used, but also the things that are working in today's market, because what worked like 2 years ago in just cold applying is not working today. Things are looking really different in today's competitive environment. So I'm going to need you to save your seat and I will see you there literally next Thursday. All right, let's dive in. Hey, it's Irina Pozan, and welcome back to the Career Cravings podcast. This podcast has a simple mission. It's to help ambitious professionals like you build the career and life that you've been craving. Over the past 15 years, I've worked as an HR leader, designed hiring systems, led recruitment teams, and I've sat on the other side of the hiring table. I've seen what works in today's job market, what doesn't, and what separates those good candidates from the ones that actually land their dream roles. Now I'm bringing everything I've learned straight to you. Each episode is packed with actionable insights and tools to help you land your dream role sooner. Now let's dive in. Okay, so let's dive into that. So take us back, Shrey. Where were you before you and I met just a couple of months ago? Walk me through what your day-to-day looked like.
Right. So before we met, and so I became a part of the STAR program back in April of 2025, right? And it was precisely a year into my jobs. So I came to Canada Jan of 2024, took my time settling down, figuring things out. And yeah, it was around Feb, March when I started my job search over here in Canada. And yeah, trying to understand the market, how things happen. And again, a big part was, understanding the kind of financial constraints I had, because I had immigrated to a new country with a limited savings or, money with me. And now I wanted to utilize it wisely before I find a good opportunity, right? And in my field particularly. So yeah, it started with planning. Along with the job search, it was, where do I invest this money? And for me, again, it's individual basis, but for me, it was more of like getting a certification and all that stuff. And then I exactly remember it was July of 2024 when I attended your first masterclass. And because again, as the second part of that planning was to get a good mentorship, right? In this new market, which I'm trying to understand and all the stuff. Of course, I have my HR experience and knowledge, but I understood like I needed mentoring, or I needed someone to show me the correct path to approach this, job market, how to find a job and all the stuff. And yeah, July 2024 was the date I attended your masterclass, and I wanted to join in immediately. But again, financial constraint. So waited that period out. Then I started a minimum wage job to ensure that I have that money to, join HR Star program as an investment, right? Because I understood it was a good investment for myself, for my future. And yes, so that's how I ended up joining HR Star program after a few months, having made up that money. And yeah, and I invested in myself and got a mentoring program in terms of HR Star program in April of 2025.
I love that. First of all, I don't think I've ever told you this, but like, congratulations for immigrating as an adult, starting your full life over. Like, I know you had HR experience back home. You literally started from scratch. And I have a huge soft spot. I'm an immigrant myself, but I was a child when I came here. So for me, it was a lot easier. I mean, I learned English really fast, like in grade one, but I saw my parents as adults, like young, they were pretty young. They were in their 30s, completely struggling. They didn't know the language, unlike you, and they had to start working minimum wage jobs. My dad was working like three jobs. He was delivering pizza and washing dishes and all these things just to pay for like an apartment in the worst neighborhood of Toronto, right? It's so challenging to start over, even though you've built a previous life as an adult. So, congratulations on doing that. So you joined the first free training, like the free masterclass in July. That's about like 7 months into your Canadian job search. And you wanted to join, but financially, it was still like a big decision for you. What was the turning point where you're like, it's still a big financial investment, right? For where you were at that time. But what was the turning point in April, like a year into your search? What was the turning point to make you know that, okay, this is the right time to invest in myself?
Right. So a year into my job search, I understood few things. I understood what I was doing right, but also reflecting on myself and my skill set and all the stuff. I knew there were certain area of concerns, or certain areas where I would require help. For example, having built resumes throughout one year, rebuilding them, changing stuff, all those things. And yet the resume that we built after the HR Star program stood out. It was completely different from what I was creating.
Okay, let's pause there because this is huge. Everyone I speak to says the same thing. And I know someone listening is thinking the same thing, that they change their resume. They spend all of this time adapting it to the job descriptions, like everyone says to do, and it still doesn't work. And then it's like you're spinning your wheels. So, what was one of the biggest changes with your resume where it started working for you? What would you say that one thing was?
I think it was, understanding my experience and putting it in a localized terms, but also at the same time, highlighting key, achievements or key things that I would have done. Right. I was, of course, putting that on my earlier resumes as well, but in a certain way. But the way we reworked over as a part of HR Star program, we restructured it. We removed few points, although they were important to me. I remember you suggesting me, like, for this market of this job, this point doesn't make sense, right? Because it is a common practice over here, as just a example. And there were few things that I thought, were, it were small achievements for me, but those were the bigger, factors over here, which mattered, like, the certain impact. And yeah, those changes that made, I think, yeah, that highlighted my skill set, aligned my skill set with the current market, or Canadian market. It highlighted the skill set that were required over here, and I think that those really made a change. And I mean, if I look at the data, which clearly shows, right? So last year, between February to June, July, August, I have received few of the screening calls, and there was me having achieved CHRV certification back in June of 2024. Having done another HR program, bridging programs, one of the employment agencies over there. So I had few credentials to back that up. but still, receiving few calls, and most of them ended after a screening or a first round interviews, right? I remember I went to two final rounds in whole of that 1 year of research prior to April. Interestingly, for some odd reason, after market opened up back in after the winter break, right? So end of Jan 2025 till April, I had received hardly three or four phone calls, which was really surprising to me. Like, I couldn't understood the reason because I thought, oh, now I understood the market. Now I know what people want. And yet, surprisingly, things that were working out in 2024 were not working out for me in the early part of 2025. And I think that was also another trigger point that if this is happening, that I'm not sure what I'm missing, right? And it's better to get a good mentorship, and it's better to invest in those kind of things than, because I had already invested in a certification and few other things. So I know, like, this might be the best investment that that I make, which was again holding me back. But yeah, then I took that jump in April of 2025.
I love that. So let's talk about the certification. So many people believe as soon as they get the certification, then they're going to get all of these calls all of a sudden just flowing in. That's often not the case at all. But it is important, like for you, especially, you were able to then say, I do have some Canadian HR education, right? So that made a big difference as well, but it wasn't still translating to those interviews and offers, right? So I love that. So in first year, you had a couple final stage interviews, a couple calls here and there. What shifted after you joined HR Star?
And my resume spoke to the current market. That's all I can say in simple words. Because I started receiving call. If I look at my track record, so April, May, 2 months I have received around 12 plus calls, 12 to 15 calls,
Wow.
screening calls, and uh, I think there were four conversion to first round interview. And yeah, I mean, I remember we discussing this bit when I was getting this offer. Just a week prior, I was rejected. I mean, I don't see rejected as is the best way to put it, but yeah, I was in three final round of interviews that particular week, out of which I got the offer from the one that I am currently. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. First of all, to have 12 screening calls in that short amount of time is so different than where you were before. So I love that. And I remember seeing you in person at Future Fest too. You were updating me on like all of these different interviews you had. I'm like, okay, this is a good sign. And I was hoping that, of course, at least one of them would become an offer or you'd come into a multiple offer situation because you had like multiple final stage rounds. Okay. So the resume started getting picked up, getting noticed. And what else was a shift for you?
I think that another big shift was the way I said. So again, I've been networking throughout last 1 year with fellow HR folks over here because I was a part of HRPA. I do love to attend a lot of networking events, right? Again, those that are free, and because you meet a lot of nice people who are able to guide you on smaller things. It totally depends upon the individual how you take on those guidance. Even me, last 1 year when I was not getting job, and the point you made, like, many people think that, oh, as soon as you do this CHRP or other certification you'll start getting jobs. That's not it, because I speak to so many people who are in this field, particularly the students who are about to enter up, people with lesser experience than me, 3 years, 2 years, right? And I tell them that it's a combination of the certification and your experience and few other factors that will get you that call. It's just not one thing. And so you need to really think about how you make those investments. Is it a certification that you require? It can be like, you have a great skill set. You don't even need a certification because you have education from over here. It might be just you need some good mentoring or someone to show you that path. So yeah, all those things change for me. Again, another big factor from the program was our group sessions, the private group sessions that we have on a weekly basis, right? So I started noticing the questions being asked by my fellow group members. I started noticing your answers, their answers, and that really helped me basically change how I was answering during my interviews. Few critical points that I thought, oh, this is the same thing that I have done. And they are putting it in a very different manner, or you are helping that modify in a certain manner, certain words, or any key factors, right? That you're guiding on. That when you ask certain question, you should use this few things that mentioned in the program. And I thought, okay, let me incorporate those stuff. Oh, this person is saying on a certain lines. Let me incorporate that. And that really started helping me out during the interviews because I could understand the answers that I was giving few months back were completely different from the answers that I was giving during this particular time period of 3 months.
I love that. So many people join for the resume, for coaching with me, the one-on-one, but I end up hearing later, just like what you said, is like you learn so much from the group because sometimes you don't think of asking a question. I remember like each call you were so engaged, like camera on, asking questions and listening too. And that is so, so helpful because to your point, it's like you may not think of a specific question. Someone else asks it. They have a similar experience to you. You're writing down notes of what you could say differently. And then it comes up in your own interview the next time, right? So
It was the first session I didn't ask any question, right? Because again, I was new to it. I was new to the group and all those stuff. But yeah, I didn't ask question, but yet I was listening carefully and how people were putting to their question, answering and all those stuff. And yeah, from again, then second session onwards, I was very active. And I remember even after landing a job, I got, because I was connected with few people in our section, thanks also to the Future Fest, where we meet few of them in person and all the stuff. So yeah, I was. It's a group takeaway. Like again, it depends upon the individual how much you're trying to learn from the group, from the time that you're spending and the investment that you are done. And yeah, I think those are the few things that we need to take care of.
I love that. Okay, so the resume was a big shift, then learning the interview skills through the group coaching sessions. Did anything surprise you? Anything else come up through the program that like you didn't expect or maybe surprised you a little bit?
Yeah, because again, when I did, I mean, when I became a part of HR Star program, I knew like I'll be having a one-on-one session with you. I know that I'll be working with you. What I didn't know was about these group sessions. At least I didn't deep dive much into it. I was not aware that, I knew there will be sessions, but it will be in a such a way that I was not really aware about. And again, that came as a surprise to me because, yeah, that was one of the best experience of the whole program. Of course, uh, also the first part of one-on-one and how we worked on my resume, and then that was a triggering point, right, of getting those calls, starting the process. But yeah, the group sessions, again, it was a surprise to me.
I love that. And I love it because you hear people that are more senior than you or at the same level or just have a slightly different experiences and the way they think through it. And you hear the coaching they get, right? So it's like, ooh, I used to say that too, or I forgot about that I did that. So love it, love it, love it. Last question before we get to the really good stuff, because I want to celebrate the amazing news that you had. But I'd love to know what was the biggest impact on you personally from like when you started the program till the end?
I think the biggest impact was, learning about how different people had different journey. Like few people had gaps in their resume. Few people were still very new to this market. Few people lost their job, unfortunately, due to the market. But how they were, putting those, I mean, happy faces on and, trying to push through their own journey, right? Because again, having been in this market for over a year, another key component was the demotivation. So I was starting to get demotivated. I was at a point where I was really frustrated with the market, with everything else, because although I keep saying to myself, like, it's not you, it's the market, it's not you, it's the market. But still, after a certain point of time, it starts just getting to you, the mental space that you're in. But when you speak to people who are in a similar journeys, also, when during our sessions, when people come and share their success stories, how they landed their job and all those stuff, and that really helps you stay positive, get that confidence back. Because again, another key part was when I was answering calls previously, I believed, after a certain period of time, I think I was not answering them with a certain spark or confidence that I had before. I always loved doing interviews from the other side. Either I'm being interviewed or I'm interviewing someone, right? I always love it. But yeah, after a certain point of time last year, just, I was not really in the best mental space to answer. But yeah, having learned your journey or, the people around, how their journeys, are, everyone is facing challenges or again, the success stories. That really helps you motivate. I mean, it motivated me to, do better, to be happy, to be in a positive mental space.
I love that. That's so beautiful, and thank you so much for sharing that. That's a huge aha moment. The confidence and, like, the positivity and trying to stay positive when it's hard, right? And you see others do it, and then it leads to success, and you're like, okay. So I love what you said that you used to love interviewing, right? You used to look forward to it, but then, of course, after a year of struggling with it, after going to many interviews that didn't end up the way you wanted, of course, it doesn't get exciting, and that financial pressure as well adds another kind of like dark cloud over the situation, right? Where you're like, well, I'd really like this job. Like, why don't they see the potential here, right? So I love that that was a shift, and employers can feel that. If you're coming in, even if you're trying not to show it in your voice, certain answers will show your mindset to the employer, right? And everyone wants to work with someone positive, who's excited, who has that spark, like you said, right? But of course, it gets duller and duller after a year of searching. Oh, okay. So walk me through the good stuff. So you had those 12 interviews, you were in final phases with multiple companies. And then what happened? What was that exciting turning point of the offer?
I mean, failed interviews. I had few final round of interviews lined up. In fact, in the same week, interestingly, right? I really like few of those interviewing. It was going on for over a month. In fact, the offer that I got, that process lasted for over 1.5 months. But over those interviews, I stayed confident. Again, another key part that I took away from the group sessions, or when speaking to people, or I knew, like, for example, your email, or I could reach out if I had an issue. I can reach out to a certain person, ask them, how I should answer and stuff. That really gave me confidence, like I had with some backup, because I remember uh, I was having those imposter syndromes, like, because after a year you have started getting calls, and all of a sudden you have like two, three final rounds, or what I thought were one of the final rounds, happening, and yeah, there was a lot of nervousness around, like, how would I fare? Would I finally get a job? Would it again be a another rejection, and again I'll have to wait for a longer time? But yeah, attending those sessions, speaking to you, speaking to people around that, I had networked for over a year. That helped me with that confidence to give proper answer, to show my the real personality. And so when I was interviewing, interestingly, again, the dates, Future Fest, we met on 3rd of June. 4th of June, I had my birthday, and I got a rejection email from one of the final. I mean, it was the final round, for one of the jobs. But interestingly, instead of getting demotivated, that usually happens, I was really excited because I knew there were a few other things lined. And on 5th of June, I had another interview in the morning, through which I got my final offer. So yeah,
Oh my goodness. That's almost like a test from the universe. Like, it's your birthday. I mean, how rude. They didn't know, obviously, but how rude to send the rejection on that day. I mean, that's not the news you wanted.
yeah,
But interestingly, it's like your mindset, you still stayed positive because you're like, you know what? I have other options. Like, I'm talking to multiple companies, something will come. And the next day,
yeah.
you got the offer. Is that right?
Yeah, no, no. Next day, I got the final call for a final round. So again, because this as when this role was changing on their side as well, because they are undergoing an tremendous organizational change. So this interview started as a 6-month contract on a third party payroll. So working for a consultancy based at a client location. And so I had already underwent few rounds, and then they decided. I think they wanted to check if I'm good enough for to be hired on a of course the organization payroll and for the senior role. So they called me 2 days back, and they said, okay, 5th of June we'll have one final round, which will have our CHRO and our vice president of HR, and yeah, they just want to have one more call with you. I said, okay. And I think that interview went on for 1.5 hours. Yeah, and instead of 45 minutes that they had told me, it went on for 1 hour 35 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. And I think again, but the positive change, the answers that were coming out of me in a naturally which align with my natural strengths and how I am as a person, right? The real me and the confident me. I think that really enabled me. That really showed them that maybe I should be hired at a senior role, at a different role. And so going from a third party contract, 6 month contract, when the offer came, it was for a director of human capital.
I remember hearing about this like that. I
uh,
think it was that day that you got it. You were in shock, and I was so happy for you. Like I had goosebumps because we were talking about this role all along. And I remember you even asking, like, should I proceed? It's a contract role. I'm like, just see what happens. Just see what happens. And then in the end, they offer you an HR director, full time permanent role, which is such a testament to you. And I know you interviewed with them for a long time, a month and a half, but it's such a testament to the way you went through the process because you obviously were able to show them you're the right person. It's not a risk to hire you full time and to essentially almost like promote you before you even started
yeah.
to that director level. It is just amazing for your future. And your first job in Canada for it to be a director role is almost unheard of. So, like, congratulations to you. It's fantastic.
Aligned with my experience, I was looking for a managerial or business partnering role. And again, out of desperation, I was looking for junior roles. But getting a role, I mean, my next level role in my career, that was wonderful. And also something that, again, a very interesting thing. Because if you remember, in one of the sessions that we had, I particularly asked, right? So I'm interviewing for this role, which is a contractual role, but I'm being asked the questions which are, more of a long term things. They're asking me, so I'm getting confused. And I think, yeah, we had a discussion on as a part of one of the sessions. So yeah, that really helped me when I went in for the final round with the CHR and the VP, and they were asking me the similar things like in a long term or as a permanent employee, what would you do and all the stuff. So yeah.
It's such a good sign. I mean, it's a positive thing, but now you know why. It's like full circle. Another thing you said that I thought was just so awesome is that you were able to go into that final hour and a half interview and be yourself, which is really hard when you're nervous, when you have a lot riding on the situation, when you really are interested, want the job. But that is the best thing that you could do. And it's easier said than done because most people worry about giving the perfect answer, trying to be something you're not, trying to, you know, project something to get hired in a specific way. But the odd thing is the more you could be yourself, the more likely it is you're gonna get an offer because people can sense when you're comfortable and then they can see the real you. And then they can see, okay, do I want Shrey to come in on Monday? Like, do I want to see this guy in the office? Like, is this someone I can see myself working with? And when we let our guard down in that final stage, because to your point, like you've already talked to them many times in the process, they already knew what your skills are, what your competencies were, what your education was. I mean, that was already checked off. That final interview is just like a almost like a personality screen at the end of it to be like, do we see Shrey working here? And you obviously were able to be yourself and show them that. So good for you. That's hard. It's easier said than done. Just be yourself. But when you're nervous, it's challenging, right?
Yeah, and also, again, the group sessions and speaking to so many people in your field helps. Why? Because you're speaking to them on a daily basis. You're speaking about same things, about interviews or a few other things that are happening around you in your field and all those stuff. And that gives you confidence that I'm speaking to a different person, but it's the same thing that I've been speaking to my friends about, or the person I've again, I'm networking with from the HR. So yeah, I spoke about this just 2 days back, and yeah, these are the same questions.
I love that. Okay, so I think part of it is you put yourself out there in the group to be vulnerable, to share your story, to share your answers. And when you get to the interview after you've done that, it's less scary because you practiced it. It's kind of like a mock interview, right? You get it out there and then the next time you perform better and it gets easier and easier and easier. And the more practice you can have, the better things often go, right? So you were doing that regularly and it obviously made you so much more comfortable, which is amazing. Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, one of the particular this scenario that I told you, right? Because I remember asking you that question and again putting my scenario, my vulnerability in the group, like, I'm interviewing for this 6 month contract, but I'm being asked questions which are more of a long term engagements. And, we drafted those answers. And I remember a person after me asking on the similar lines, or something else on the similar lines. And all those points that really, because I was noting everything in my mind, and that helped when I was in the actual interview. I was like, huh, I mean, I don't need to prepare or, and this is not something that it's not me. I have spoken about this to someone else and I just have to repeat those things or just be myself as I was in that group. And yeah, those things really help you.
Oh, I love that so much. So it's like the resume, the interview skills, the practice, the mindset shifts. There's been so much that you shared there in your journey and I just loved seeing you throughout the process. And I remember our very first meeting too. And I remember telling you, like, you have so much potential. It's just like getting you in front of people so that they can also see it. And biggest congratulations. I know you recently started your new role. What would be to end this? I think you shared so many great points with those listening, but what would be like one thing you tell someone who's in the same spot you were just like 3 months ago? What would you tell them in terms of like if they're trying to determine if they get support or they're also struggling with the things you were struggling for a year? Tell me more.
I think it's a matter of timing again. It's not us because if you worked somewhere, if you have studied something, you have those skill sets. And again, we are different, very different and tough market than it was 2 years back or even last year. Right? This is a completely different market. So again, introspect, understand yourself, and make good investment on ourselves. It can be a certification, it can be getting a mentorship, whatever we require. But yeah, I mean, we first of all we need to be patient because again, as I remember, like 6 months back, I was doing a minimum wage job at $18 an hour as a labor job in a production house, right? So yeah, at times it was frustrating, like having 9 years of experience into HR. I worked in global companies as a business partner and all those stuff, and here I am working this job. But again, with the end goal, I knew and using all those time to ensure that I don't lose my confidence, right? So, speak to people and decide what good investment you can do on yourself. If not in, good investment, that be the judge. I mean, be a good judge of your own character and see your limitation, try to understand and try to fill up those gaps instead of, just doing the same thing on a repeat more because those things, I mean, doing same things again and again won't really help. Something needs to change. And again, patience is the key.
I love that. So, yes, after doing the same thing for a year over and over again, you were doing everything that you possibly could to support your family, which is admirable, even though you felt like obviously you weren't in where you wanted to be in your career, right? You knew you were capable of so much more. And this is so validating now to see that, you know, they saw that in you and they offered you this director role. So huge congratulations. You've come such a long way in such a short time. I can't wait to see what you do next in your career. And I just can't wait to continue to watch you thrive. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story and inspiring someone who may have needed to hear the message that you shared today. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for providing this platform where, we can share whatever stage of journey we are in. Either it's to this podcast or, becoming a part of that group and sharing when I was searching for a job, providing this different platforms to us to, voice our opinions or, our journey, telling people about our journey. So yeah, thank you for that.
Wait. Before you go, if you have not saved your seat for my live training that's coming up on September 11th, it is the only one, the last one I'm doing for 2025. What are you even doing if you're looking for your next HR role? I need you to be there. It is going to be incredible. Save your seat. The link is in the show notes. Just swipe up, and I cannot wait to see you there. See you in the next episode. Hey, before you go, if you've enjoyed listening to today's show, I would love your support. Please take a moment to leave a review anywhere where you listen to podcasts. And here's the exciting part. I'm running a special contest and giving away a one-on-one session with yours truly. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and send it to me in my DMs. All of my contact info is in the show notes. I appreciate you so much, and I cannot wait to build the career and life that you've been craving together. See you next week.